Whitaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't. I'm Andrew.
I'm Lee.
And this is Whitaker Weekly. Let's get right into it, guys. You found some news to go ahead and share, so how about you start?
All right. This came across my feed. It's pretty big news today. Avengers Endgame is to be re-released June 28th with a post-credit scene or two. They mentioned multiple. The idea is that they wanted to beat Avatar as the top-grossing film of all time, and so they're doing this re-release next week.
They did something similar with Fellowship of the Ring, if you recall correctly. After a couple of months of it being in theaters, they re-released it with the trailer for The Two Towers at the end of the credits. Just kind of as a thank you to the people who kept going to see the movie over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I have seen it once in theaters, and we took our oldest with us, and we went on one of the $5 Tuesdays, so it was cheap. So we didn't end up using our movie passes that day. But we haven't yet seen Endgame on a movie pass. So we're planning on next week going back, seeing what they do with it.
Cool. I actually went to go see. I went to go see Endgame again a few weeks back with some friends. And they added the Spider-Man trailer at the end of the credits. But right before the movie started, they had this little talk with Tom Holland and said, okay, so the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is going to be with this movie. But because we don't want to spoil Endgame for you, the trailer is going to be at the end of the movie. So go ahead and stay until after the credits, and then you'll see the trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming. So, yeah.
Spider-Man Far From Home.
That's my bad. You're right. All right.
So now you've got a couple of news items you want to share with us.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of typing them away as we go. So they are making a, I guess, they're pretty much done with it, but the movie's coming out here pretty soon. But they're making a Dragon Quest movie. Dragon Quest V, based off of Dragon Quest V, Hand of the Heavenly Bride. And that's one of the most popular Dragon Quest games because you can marry one of three candidates in it. And you have offspring with them. It's a story about growing up. The main character starts as a little boy, and he grows to being a man, and then a husband and a father, and kind of avenging the death of his father and things like that as well. One of the I will say this is kind of off-putting, but I'm getting more used to it. One of the things that Dragon Quest is super famous for is that Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball fame is the character designer for it.
Yeah.
Ever since the very first one, all the way up until 11, which just came out last year. This movie is not using his art style, though. It's very, very odd to me, but the more I see it in motion and things, it looks fine. It looks good. It's just kind of weird to me to not see these characters in his art style. But
yeah, I had the exact same feeling back when they made that Digimon movie.
Yeah.
They decided to go with a completely different character design for the movie and just do different things with it. And
if I recall correctly, the movie actually had different characters in it than the main show. It started off with...
They had a few new ones, but no, it still had the main cast.
Okay, it's been years since I've seen it. So, but anyways, the second trailer for Dragon Quest: Your Story has been posted. I'm worried mostly because taking a Dragon Quest game, those, if you're rushing through it, it will take you 40 to 50 hours to get through a Dragon Quest game. Mostly because they're just hard games. They're real hard, and they're real time consuming. And I don't know how they're going to cram a 40-hour game into a 90-minute to 2-hour movie, you know?
Right.
Especially since Dragon Quest is... The popularity of Dragon Quest in Japan dwarfs everything else. So if it's bad, these filmmakers have to know it's probably going to be the end of their career.
That's dangerous.
Maybe, I don't know. But in other news, Moraine, one of the lead characters in the Wheel of Time series, she has been cast. They announced the casting for Moraine today.
Rosamund Pike?
Rosamund Pike.
Name doesn't ring a bell. Let me look her up real quick.
Yeah, the name, like, I had to look her up as well, but she's actually done quite a bit of stuff. She's done quite a bit of stuff. Let me pull up her IMDb here.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. Yeah, I recognize her. I just didn't know her name.
Yeah, no, she's been in a ton of stuff. And the guy who's the showrunner, Rafe something or other, I can't remember his last name, but he posted a picture of her holding the first book for the Wheel of Time series. And he said, I dare you to find someone else reading the book as close to as Moraine would as her. So, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah.
No, she, I think
it's good casting.
I think it's going to be good casting, too. I'm looking forward to seeing who else has been cast. If they're casting, though, that means they're going to be pretty close to starting to film the first season. And I'm really excited about that. Anyway, yeah. So maybe we'll have to do a 3 episodes in for the Wheel of Time when when it starts getting posted onto Amazon. All right. Well, I think that's about it for news, unless there's anything else you wanted to go ahead and cover.
No, that was it for me.
Okay. Well,
so this week was your choice for 3 episodes in. Yep. What did we watch?
This week we watched Wise Man's Grandchild. A completely delightful show that I've already watched all the episodes of, except for the latest one that I either posted yesterday or today. I'm not quite sure when it posts, because I haven't really looked it up. But it's a very delightful show that's lighthearted, but at other times very heavy. But anyways,
no, it definitely has a good balance and pacing in terms of emotional.
But anyways, here's the synopsis from Crunchyroll. A young man dies in a car accident and is reborn in a magical new world. The old, yet wise Merlin finds the boy, names him Shin, raises him from infancy, and teaches him combat and powerful magic along the way. 15 years later, Shin is ready to travel the globe on his own. But Merlin forgot to teach him something major. Common sense. So yeah, let's dig right into this. We watched the first 3 episodes. Let's talk about what happened and what we liked.
All right. So the first episode, it follows the traditional Japanese anime format of getting right into the show and then using the opening credits for the closer.
Yep.
Yeah, we're introduced to the character in a very... It wastes no time in saying, hi, I used to live in your world. I got killed in a car accident. Now I live here.
Yeah. And I was actually talking to Doug about this. He's the one who told me about the show, our brother Doug. And he's like, it's an isekai, but it doesn't really need to be an isekai for it to work. And I was like, after watching the first couple of episodes, I disagree. I think it needs to be an isekai to work.
Because the thing is, he brings something to the table that comes from having some basic knowledge of our world, which makes him appreciate the world he's in even more.
Yeah,
and that's a major character trait for him.
And this isn't really jumping the gun on things, but it's his knowledge of our world's science that gives him such an edge on magic above everybody else. Because he just knows how to combine. He knows the basic structure of how things work, about how things can combine. Like he casts this fireball spell and he creates blue flame in front of other people, and that's the first time they've ever seen blue flame. And he's kind of walking us through his thought process of it as he's casting the spell. He creates fire. He adds
hydrogen and oxygen,
and starts feeding it to the fire, and then he encapsulates it in an air bubble. to let it expand super fast, and then he throws it out just as it reaches its peak power, and it causes this massive explosion. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
is it like a tiny little hydrogen bomb?
yeah, he pretty much created a hydrogen bomb, and everyone else, the people who had not seen it yet, are all just dumbfounded at the
Yeah.
power of this spell. But anyways, that's kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but
So we're first introduced to him around the age 8.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so what's he do when he's 8 years old?
When he's 8 years old, he goes hunting and he kills. He uses wind magic to create wind blades, and he kills some chickens, and he kills a boar, and then he puts them into his personal own pocket dimension that he has, which
Yes.
makes carrying things around super easy. But he puts them in his pocket dimension, and he dumps them in front of his grandpa's home, this cabin in the woods. And his grandpa's praising him, saying how great he is and stuff like that. And then Melida shows up.
Yes.
Or Melida shows up. And Melida
Yes.
is an older woman, pinkish hair.
Mhm.
He
And
she sees his
prone to getting angry.
Because Grandpa Merlin is not teaching him properly.
No.
And you see all the mistakes that Merlin has made all along the way, at encouraging Shin to do what he does. But anyways, she then screams at him and says, "In what world does an 8-year-old child go boar hunting?" And he just says, "Cocotus," or like right here. And she's like, "That's besides the point."
Yeah, it's a running gag, and it isn't paid off until close to the end of episode 2. Is that Shin feels no shame for all of his amazing accomplishments whatsoever, and it isn't until episode 2 that's like, that's the first time Shin ever regretted something, and the grandma and grandpa are like stars, a halo of stars around them in excitement, like yay
over their head.
Yes.
At age 10. And like Shin, and they point out that like Shin goes to a magic academy, and that's where he meets the other characters and other friends and stuff like that, and that's where the plot starts advancing.
Yes.
But it's also there, and we'll get to that. But it's there when he realizes just how much more advanced, more off the charts, as they put it, than everybody else is around him, especially at his age.
It is pretty extreme.
Yeah.
So the opening scenes are pretty chronological. They start with explaining who he is, and then it's part of his adventure when he's 8, then another adventure when he's 10.
When he's 10.
When he decapitates a demon bear
Mm-hmm.
by himself. Because he managed to also enchant his shoes to be rocket boots.
Yeah, he learns enchanting from his grandma, or from Melida. Yeah. And so he's enchanted his boots to have air jets on them, and he uses them to just fly around as to avoid being attacked by this thing. He's also been trained by another man, because he's just so advanced at magic at the age of 8 already. They decided to give him combat training with swords. Yes. So I didn't write the guy's name down, but this older man comes and teaches him with swords. Yeah. And so by the time he's 10, he's already really good with the sword, and he's really good with magic. And he creates a vibroblade at the age of 10. For those of you who don't know what a vibroblade is, it's a popular sci-fi weapon. I mean, I guess it's also in D&D. You can get a vibro sword, but it's a sword that just vibrates at supersonic speeds to where it cuts through molecules. Yeah. It just perfectly slices through anything. James, actually, our friend James, actually has a vibro sword in our epic level game that we play once a month. No. And every time he gets a natural 20, it's an instant kill.
Yeah.
No matter what I don't know if it's no matter what he's fighting, but it might be anything that's below his level is an instant kill. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But every time he gets a natural 20, whatever he's fighting has just died. So he creates a vibroblade, and he just decapitates this red bear that they call it, a demonized red bear.
Then he turns 15, mm-hmm. and they have a party, celebrating his entering manhood, because you reach adulthood at the age of 15 in this world. which he thinks is ridiculous because he comes from our world and knows that 15 is still way too young to be a
Well,
man.
and he comes from Japan, where the
Yeah.
coming of age party is at 20. I think they might be changing that to 18, kind of like we do here in America. You're considered an adult in America at 18.
Mm.
But I'm not. It was a news article I read a little while back. I'm not sure if that's actually something they're going forward with.
Right.
But right now, it's their coming of age party is at the age of 20.
Okay.
So it's 5 years early for him.
It is. And there's a whole bunch of people there, including somebody he calls Uncle Dis.
And auntie and like or big brother and big sister.
Yeah.
A woman.
I
didn't write down their names, but
just a whole slew of people.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a merchant there. All these people there. There's just a ton of people.
Well, they start telling him, "Oh, you slayed a demon. Maybe you can be a demon hunter as a profession. A demon hunter? What's that?" And then they start delving into what careers he could choose from, and tell him about all the things he could do. And it's like, "Oh, right. As an adult, I'll probably have to learn how to, earn money." Instead, I've never spent any before. And there's a guy at the table who's a merchant who's like, is the first to realize something's off.
He's like, wait a minute.
You've never bought anything in your life before?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. And then everybody just turns to Merlin and goes, I forgot to teach him common practices.
Yeah, but he's not embarrassed by it. He's just kind of sitting back and laughing, being like, ha ha ha, isn't this a funny turn of events? And
then like, he was so interesting to teach magic. He learned magic so well. I just didn't think about teaching him anything else.
Well, and they kind of talk about this after he kills the bear. He's sleeping in his room, and the Melida, Merlin, and the swordsman are all talking just about how advanced he is and how quick he's learning, and they're kind of worried about that. Yes. But they're also proud of it because they really see him as like Merlin and Melida is like, well, he's not really our grandchild. And but we see him as, or Merlin says, I see him as such at this point. Melida's just like, yeah, I feel the same way type thing. Even though she doesn't live with them, she just comes and visits every once in a while.
Well, Merlin basically says, oh, I'm sure everything will work out. And then they go to, then they go and use a teleportation spell that Shin invented himself, which is kind of a fold space portal.
Yeah. He creates a wormhole. Like he uses his knowledge of, again, our sciences and our theoretical physics and things like that.
Yeah, in his own mind, he eventually tries explaining this to someone, and it shows a piece of paper that folds in half and connects one dot to another. That's the fold space theory of wormholes.
Yeah, and that's how he does it.
He gets it, and he makes magic of it, and it still just breaks the brain of everybody else around him.
Yeah, and he goes, and then this is when he casts that spell where he creates the blue fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they go out to the middle of nowhere.
Explosion.
And they realize that this guy now has magical power enough to tip the balance of powers between nations.
Yeah, he alone is now a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
And so they come back.
Yeah, they go back to there to Merlin's little hut, and they sit back down at the table where they're having this, and they start having a discussion about how dangerous and how much of a problem Shin is now, and how we have to solve this problem. And that's when it's revealed that Uncle Dis is the king of a nation.
And that the two people he calls older brother and older sister are his personal bodyguards. One's an incredibly skilled knight, and the other's an incredibly skilled wizard.
Heads of their orders.
The heads of their orders. And the guy who trained him used to be the knight commander of that same kingdom. And then it's revealed that Merlin and Merlin and Melida are both heroes and were once married.
And they behave like they were once married. And so it's not a surprise to anybody paying attention.
Except for Shin, because Shin doesn't have common sense thanks to Merlin. But anyways,
he has some level of common sense from his own world that he remembers, but
he said that he remembers everything about his previous life except for how he died. Yeah, which he got hit by a car. They showed that really early on. He gets hit by a car. Just wasn't paying attention.
But he doesn't one
night. But yeah, he doesn't remember. But he it's revealed that these two were heroes that saved the city from the only recorded event of a human turning into a demonoid.
Yes.
And they don't really explain how that happened, how the human became a demonoid. It has to do
Just
with
that he was creating massive amounts of devastation
mm-hmm,
and nearly killed the king. And then they came up and together were barely able to defeat
mm-hmm.
him.
The king was actually attending the Magical Academy himself that time, and because of how quickly this demonoid was just destroying cities and wiping out divisions of people who were, it was their job to kill demons,
Yeah.
and he just wiped out 2 platoons of these groups. So they asked for volunteers from the Magic Academy. The king signed up for it, and he was about to get killed when Merlin and Melida showed up, saved him, defeated this demon, became heroes, and they became super close. And they got a relationship where they could just be casual with each other regardless of their stations in life. And one of the reasons that Dis came out here so often as he did was because this was the one place where he could just be sarcastic and have a good time and not worry about anybody.
About propriety and the language of royalty
Exactly.
and
Mm-hmm.
and he just says, "You now you know I'm a king, but you're still talking to me in this common tongue. Please, let's keep doing this."
But he's just like, well, yeah, I mean, like, you were Uncle Diz far before I knew that you were a king. And then the king just laughs. Um, and then the king recommends, and then they get into that discussion about what are we going to do because you are so dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
if word gets out about you, then every nation in the world is going to want you. Okay. And that means either they're going to try to kill you with assassins or they're going to try to take you for themselves. And so the king says, how about you join the Magical Academy? Merlin is immediately like, wait, whoa. You're just trying to get him for yourself. And he's like, look, the Magical Academy, you know about this place. It's decreed by royal law that everybody is equal here, that no one has any
It's a
official
complete
standing.
meritocracy.
Yep,
No.
it is completely merit based. And so Shin realizes that he can have friends his own age, that he can go ahead and learn more about magic, and in his mind, kind of take it easy at a school.
Yeah.
And so he goes, and
And so yeah, they decide to go, and 2 weeks later, half a month later or so, they're arriving by cart and arrive at a very familiar looking mansion.
well
If
before
you've
that
ever seen Konosuba.
before that, and I didn't check into this, but I'm pretty sure it's the same company that made Konosuba, but it's the same mansion that they get. It's like almost the
Yeah.
exact same. And there's even an aerial shot of the city that's almost the exact same as the town of beginnings or whatever it's called in Konosuba.
There's just a handful of changes, like how the school in the middle of the city is a more prominent feature,
Mm-hmm.
but the city is a perfect circle with a river
Mm-hmm.
running through it, the exact same path. There
Mm-hmm.
may be more lakes, a bigger pond, or something else
Mm-hmm.
that add features to it. But yeah,
Mm-hmm. But anyway,
but that's been a
so
big meme
they
lately.
get to the city gate, and the guard at the gate is just doing his job, asking for identification for everybody who's coming into this city. And Merlin's like, "Is this good?" And Melodus was like, "Yes, here's my identification," type thing. And he's just like, "Wait a minute, you're the wise man Merlin Woodford, and you're the guru Melida, whatever, I don't remember what her
Yeah.
last name is, but it's no longer Woodford."
But he
Um,
says it loud enough to cause
and there's
a
this
riot.
huge crowd of people, and they're just like, oh, it's the wise man and the guru, it's the wise man and the guru, and this massive crowd of people just come running towards this carriage.
The smoke cloud, and people running towards them, and
Uh-huh.
it's very reminiscent of the Beatles' "Help" and anything
And
based on that.
Merlin and Melida, they're just like,
This is
but
why we live in the country with
this
no
is
one
why we
around
live in the
us.
country. Yeah, and he actually points that out. Like, they get to their house, and the house was given to him
By the
because
state.
of his deeds, for saving the king, and helping the city and stuff like that. And he gets to this house, and it's this massive mansion with all these servants and stuff. Like, we're here to take care of your every need. I'm here to cook for you, all that stuff. And Shin's just like, "This is incredible, Grandpa. Why didn't you tell me you had a place like this?" And Merlin's just like, "This is one of the reasons why we never come here."
Yeah, because they're being addressed hyper politely by the
Mhm.
servants.
Yep.
who introduce themselves as their main butler, Steve.
I am
And the main,
Steve.
and then I don't remember that. I just remember that. It's very. It's like the butler's name was Steve, and then there was a main maid and a head cook.
hmm hmm
And those people introduce themselves and they had nameplates. And it's the last time we see them in the first 3 episodes, but I assume they're going to play a bit more of a
I honestly
part.
don't remember. I'll be honest. I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I just like the reaction of Grandma and Grandpa as they get into the city, and then as they are taking care of the servants and unpacking and stuff like that, they tell Sheen just go ahead and explore the city. And
Give him some money to buy himself an apple.
yep, and he spends a silver piece on an apple, which
He was probably fleeced.
yeah, probably fleeced. He's
Like,
like, "Is this enough?"
is this the right amount? He asks, not knowing, which
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
see
this.
if
hmm
we'll see what happens.
Maybe I don't know, but he's just so pleased with himself that he purchased an apple. Then he eats this apple, and he wanders through the city, and he gets lost. And what happens?
He comes into an alleyway, and he actually sees in the alleyway 3 guys towering over what appears to be one girl the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, I could see the second girl's corner of her dress, but it
Yeah.
seemed like an
hmm
afterthought. But you only really focus and see one girl with
hmm
with a red style to her,
hmm
red hair, red dress, um, and these 3 towering thugs leaning over them, saying, "Come with us, you'll have a good time." And literally, Shin's over there thinking, "How cliche can you get?"
Yeah, it's just like how
And,
cliche can you get? This is
and then
ridiculous.
and then he proceeds to berate them for harassing the women, and it says, "We're heroes, you scram." It's like, you might be heroes if you're demon hunters, but when you start
hmm
hunting women, you just become
Yeah.
common
Well,
villains.
and he asks, "Ladies, are these guys bothering you?" And a girl who her name
The
is
red
Maria. We don't
Maria.
know at the time, but her name is Maria, and she says, "Yes, they are really bothering us." And they're like, "Get out of here, scrub. We're heroes. Like, we're demon slayers. That means we protect these girls, and we should be able to have some fun with them." And then, yeah, he says what you said.
Yeah.
You're here, like maybe you're heroes when you're taking care of demons, but you're just common thugs when you're hunting girls.
Yeah.
And they get pissed at him, and one of them throws a punch at him. He's just like, "That's so slow." It's like kind of the scene in the Tobey
In the
Maguire
Tobey Maguire
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's
Like
like watching the fists
it's
go
not
by.
it's not as pronounced as that, but he's just like, "Man, he's so slow." And then like a flash, he grabs the guy and flips him over. Then
Yes.
the other guy comes at him, he throws that guy over, and
The
then the third
third guy
guy.
comes at him with a knife, and he blocks with his hand and shatters the knife.
And I'm pretty sure he cast a quick spell, like a quick
Yeah.
shield spell to block to protect his hand from the knife, but because it kind of flashes there when it happens. But he breaks the knife and punches the guy, and
They're all down for the count.
they're all down for the count. And
And that's when he sees that there was more than one girl he saved.
but Maria comes over and thanks him, and he's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yes, thanks. We were just minding our own business when these punks came up and attacked us." And then he notices that there's the other girl.
Which is
But
a girl in a light blue
mhm,
character design.
mhm,
Light blue hair, light blue dress.
uh-huh. And they introduce her via view of her plot lines.
Yeah.
Uh, she's a fairly busty girl. Um, they show that first, and then the camera pans up and shows her face, and she's blushing, big green eyes, light blue, long hair, just this adorable face, and she says thank you, and he falls in love at first sight.
Yeah,
Just
immediately.
like face goes bright red. He gets the huge, like over pronounced blush marks that go out over his like
past his cheeks, yeah.
past his cheeks.
Yeah. He blushes the sky next to his face.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the first episode is when he meets these 2 girls.
And that's when they start the opening credits scene, which is quite an interesting transition because the first shot in the opening credit sequence is the main character in a close-up, and suddenly his clothes go flying off, and then he goes flying off to the sky. So I wasn't entirely clear that it had actually started the opening credits at that point because of what happened the shot before, which is he's falling in love with her, and then maybe this is some fantasy that he's going into. But no, that's the
Maybe.
opening credits.
Maybe. Nope. Maybe. I don't know. But like Uh,
That's what it seemed like at first, and I'm like, oh
mhm,
no, this is the OP.
yeah. Um, but it could also be that that was just the perfect way to start the OP, and they knew that was how it was going to start. It started
Yes.
the last episode started with him seeing this girl that he was falling in love with, and seeing her just makes him feel like he's flying through the sky type thing. And so, boom, could be. I don't know.
We're connected. Yeah.
So episode 2 starts with the three of them at a cafe, Sheen, Cicely, and Maria, and they're
Yes.
chatting. And it turns out they're there to also apply for the Magical Academy, because we didn't mention this, but there's a test. You have to take a test to get into it, and pass the test, obviously.
And whatever and how you do in the test determines what class you're in. And
Yeah.
there's apparently
Mm-hmm.
the A class and the S class, which
Mm-hmm.
is superior to A.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because
so
that's how the Japanese alphabet works, apparently.
I recently read somewhere that a lot of countries, if you get 70% or above, that's an A. If you get 50%, it's a C. And it's
Yeah.
only in
No.
America, and America has a much more stringent grading scale, so we never needed an S.
Yeah. I don't know. I just had a friend that made fun of that one at one anime we were watching. He's just like, yes, because in the Japanese alphabet, S comes before A. So he was a bitter guy. Anyways,
That'll happen.
they're chatting and they realize that he's going to be hopefully attending the same school, taking the same test. And Cicely just gets super embarrassed and shy and stuff. But Maria is just like in complete control of the conversation or whatnot. And she just says, "Oh, with your combat skills, we thought that you would definitely be joining the night school, not the magic school." He's like, "Well, I hope that I get to see you guys there. Like, I hope we get to be classmates. That'll be great." And he gets up and he leaves. And Maria sees Ceciline, and she sees the face that Ceciline has, just this,
The
and she's
forlorn.
just staring at. She's just watching him as he goes, and Maria's just like, "He was pretty cute, huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, he was. And that was great that he came to our rescue, huh? Yeah, that was. Mind if I kiss him? Yeah, sure." Like
She's not paying attention.
Cecily isn't paying attention to what she's saying. He's like, "Mind if I kiss him?" "Ah, maybe I'll just take him for myself then." And then finally Cecily notices what's going on. She's like, "No, no, 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 you can't have him." So, and it's obviously Maria's just poking fun at her friend.
Yeah,
So,
she's definitely got her own smug
oh
look.
yeah, and like even in the opening credits, there's this part like Sheen walks through one of his gates, and there's a tree, and there's like the school uniform dress floating behind the tree, and he's happy because obviously he thinks it's Ceciline, because throughout the entire opening credits, there's moments that those two share, and then Maria's face pops around the tree, and he
Like,
just
ah!
goes, ugh, and then Cecilene's face pops around the tree, and they both share a laugh. I mean, we like Maria. Maria is a very good female friend character.
Yes.
She's the good female friend character.
She's the best friend who is going to get this couple together by hell or high water.
I won't spoil it for you. I want you to watch it.
I wanted to too. Once episode 3 ended, it was kind of like, I have to stop and talk about this before I can watch
I know,
more of it.
right? Or as soon as we're done here, I'm just going to go ahead and watch the latest episode that posted. So they then, next sits the exam, and he goes to the school building where he's going to take the exam, and he's just like, "Oh, what room do I need to go to?" And then someone comes up and says, "Hey, you move," behind him, and he's not paying attention. He's just like, "Oh, okay, this is where I go." And the guy who's been
who's been yelling at him,
barking at him, kind of, trying to establish his authority over him, puts his hand on his shoulder, and Sheen just reacts naturally because he's been trained in self-defense and fighting since he was 8. Grabs the guy's hand, flips him over, and pins him down, and almost dislocates his arm by holding his arm up. And this guy starts yelling and shouting, and Shin's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Like, you came up and just grabbed me. That's incredibly rude, So yeah. I just kind of reacted." And the guy starts throwing around his title and his name and saying, "How dare you?
Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am? No.
Coach Vaughn, so and so." And
and
then he says, and then Shin says, and I wrote this down. He says, "Hi, Orewa Shin desu. Like it got getting everybody around him to laugh because like this guy's trying to throw his authority around. It's like, oh, we're introducing ourselves. Hi, I'm Shin.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Which
I
I
forgot.
also wrote down. It sounded a whole lot like Ome wa Moshinderu.
Oh, my almost Shinderu.
It
Maybe
just
you're already dead. Yeah, I didn't catch that. It more reminded me of Cosmo's. Yes, yes, I'm Cosmo.
Hi, Cosmodes.
Hi, Cosmo this. But anyways, he going back a little bit, we forgot to say this. The girls at the cafe, the girls were just like, "Oh, by the way, did you hear that the
That
that
the guru and
the wise men are in town, and apparently their grandson's with them. Isn't that incredible? He's our age. I'm so happy. Like, I'm so glad that I'm blessed to be the age of the wise man's grandson," type thing. And Shin's just getting more and more embarrassed and more
looking to the side.
crap. And he's just like, yeah, yeah.
Do you not care at all? No, it's okay. It's pretty
Fine,
exciting.
yeah. No, I was like, wait, what? And like Cecily says, wait, do you not like? Is everything okay? Do you not really care about it? And he's like, oh no, I'm just really surprised at how Maria here seems to be a super fan of Grandpa. I mean, of Merlin and of the wise man and the guru. And she's like, of course I'm a fan. I've traced their exploits, and so yeah, that's what gets him to get up and leave. But he pays the bill for them and stuff like that as well. And but anyways, as this guy's trying to throw around his weight, another voice comes in and says, "Hey, stop. You know that this place is sacred ground. You know that it is not by law, but by royal decree that this is a merit-based based location. That this
you're not allowed to throw your weight around.
You will be punished severely if you try to throw your weight around. You have one warning. Stop." And the guy's like, fine. And everyone's just kind of eyeing this other person. And this other person is, I didn't write down his...
He introduces himself as August von...
August.
I didn't ever write... He goes by Augie.
Yeah, he goes by Aug. He goes by Aug.
But he turns out he's the son of the king. He's the prince. And that's actually what Shin says. Your Uncle Dis's son?
And he's just like...
Nobody has ever addressed me as Uncle Dis's son.
And he laughs at it, but everyone else around him is just like, how is he talking so casually to the prince? Who is this guy, Yeah. And then the prince has two bodyguards that are following him around as well.
That annoy him. Their very presence annoys him.
Yeah, their very presence annoys him. But but yeah, and he's like, oh, wait, if you're Uncle Dis's son, that kind of makes us cousins, doesn't it? Yeah, that kind of does that, and he's eating it up. He's never had anybody treat him this way before, and he loves it. And they become fast friends. The two of those become fast friends.
They become fast friends, but also there's a little bit of viciousness on the side of the prince that comes out from time to time. It's beautiful.
This time around, as I was watching the first 3 episodes, I noticed something that I didn't notice before. The king promised that he would not use Shin. That he would not use Shin for the country, that he would not enlist him in the military or anything like that. He would not use Shin as a tool for the country. The prince made no such promise. The prince made no such promise. And I was just like,
yeah.
But anyways,
and so the exam starts, and part of the exam is the written portion, which Maria's got her tongue out and is super serious because she's sworn she's going to get the top score, and some people are better than others, and Shin is just breezing through. It's like, oh, okay, and then there's the magic portion of the exam.
Now,
and
before we say this, we need to say something that I think you wrote this down. But oh no, you didn't write it down. But no, one of the things that Shin points out when he's 8 and casting spells is how he's so happy magic in this world doesn't work the way it does in freaking anime, where people have to make chants and do weird poses and have weird names for their spells. You can just think about it, visualize it, and it happens.
Yes.
What happens during the exam?
Well, it's that moment that he sees kids his own age casting spells. And the first one
And the teacher
starts
says,
doing it.
do your best.
Do
Okay.
your
The
best.
instructor says, or the examiner says, do your best. Do your best spell.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the first guy does a bit of a ballet move while chanting this statement of casting to
Uh-huh.
throw a fireball, and it just throws, a couple of sparkles of
Yeah,
flame at this
it's a
target
little
across
ball
the
of
room.
fire, but as soon as it hits this target on the other side, it's just just kind of spells into nothing. And Shin is over there. Everyone's impressed, and this guy's like, ha, like he's beaming because of his spell. And then it cuts over to Shin, and Shin has his hand and head against the wall, just like, ah, what was that? What was that? What was that embarrassing spellcasting moment? What was that?
And it just gets worse and worse. In
Uh-huh.
fact, um, and so another guy does a dance, does a water blast of some kind, and basically just squirts the target dummy on the other side
Yeah.
of the room.
Uh-huh.
And then the girl in the room casts a spell to summon Mother Earth to her aid to perform this spell,
Uh-huh.
and he
And
and
he
so
gets
she
more
and there's little pebbles, just,
and this guy
and
does
sh-
this
and
over elaborate dance
and
with big
and
wind
she's
blades.
so pleased with herself. And he's
Uh-huh.
like, "Why are you pleased with yourself? What is this mockery of a recital?"
Like, what is this? This is ridiculous. And then the teacher's like, wait, hey, it's your turn. Oh, and she
And the
whispers
king
to
has
him.
told me not
Yeah,
to.
she whispers to him that. Go ahead, go ahead.
The king has told me to tell you to hold back.
Yeah, the king's
So
told me
don't.
about
So
you.
just destroy the target dummy.
Yeah, and he's just like, okay. And so he casts a spell. He creates this little blue flame in his hand, and all the other students are just like, he's
Wait, what?
casting a spell without a chant. What's going on here? And then he just boom casts it, and it's this. And for him, it is a small spell.
It is. He didn't destroy the room. He just
He
filled it with smoke and
and he
dust.
hits the target, and the shockwave knocks over all the students, and there's just this massive explosion of dust and soot from the fireball that he just created, and knocking everyone over. The teacher, the instructor, or the examiner, I guess is what we're calling her. She's on the ground screaming, "I told you to hold back!" as her glasses crack from the force of this explosion. And Shin's just like, I did.
That is me holding back.
And
Oh,
the teacher's just like,
well done.
oh, well done. you know?
And then he's just pleased that she didn't, immediately kick him out
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's a brief meeting between the teachers and says, "So that's how powerful the grandchild of the guru, the grandchild of the wise man is."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I no, I think that I was about to say something that happened. I think that happens in episode 3.
Yeah.
But in a couple days
And
pass.
he gets accepted.
Mm-hmm.
He's given his student ID, and then he's handed a bag that has his uniform in it.
His uniform. He's
And
got 2 bags, uniform and then books. So, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so he's given the uniform, and then he's instructed, "This uniform has enchantments on it. Don't go around changing it." "Well, my grandmother's the guru. Is it okay if she changes it?" "Yes, that would be fine."
And he's like,
"I'm so changing this when I get home."
yep. And he gets home and he does that. And he's got a magical device
It's a
that
pencil.
no one else has, but it's a pencil. And apparently he's the only one in the world who can do this, but he erases magical writing. He erases the
Yeah,
enchantment.
yeah, he summons the runes that are enchanting the clothes, and just charges the eraser point of his pencil and just strokes the pencil across his clothes and erases the magic, and it's just gone.
And then he's just like, now this is going to have to be my masterpiece. This is going to have to be
Because
something absolutely
there's a
incredible.
20 character limit to what he can cast on this thing.
Mm-hmm. And so he writes it, and he writes it in. I think one of the reasons that his magic is so advanced is because instead of using their world's writing, he uses kanji,
He
and
does.
the same kanji can have multiple different meanings.
And,
So,
and so any meaning that he wants to put into the kanji.
mm-hmm. And so he puts that. He then writes his spell over it, not, and he uses the other side of the pencil, and he writes his spell into it. Not literally writing, but
So yeah,
that's what he
it's
does.
the same kind of magical wave
Uh-huh.
where he just carries it over the clothes, and
Mm-hmm.
then the words appear. from
And
underneath.
he then looks
Kind
at
of a
what he
white.
did, and he's super excited, and he's just like, hey, grandma, grandma, and he's
What
super
are you
excited.
doing yelling at this
What are you
time of
doing?
night?
Yeah, what are you doing yelling this time of night? Grandma, look what I made! And he holds it to her, and she's just like, huh? Huh? As she's reading what he did. And it's not revealed what he did yet. It's not.
They don't reveal exactly what he
They don't
cast
reveal what he did.
just yet.
But so it's the first day of school, and he's learned that he's in the same class as Og, and then he's also in the same class as Maria.
Oh,
And
that was the other thing, was before the first day of school, and this is one of the points that the prince is just vindictive, is he's informed when he receives his uniform, you
That's right.
got the top score. So it'll be your responsibility to address the new class.
He's like, wait,
like,
I don't want to do it. You got the prince right here.
The prince of the kingdom is here. You should let him do it. And then the prince pontificates for quite a while about the tradition of this school and how important it is to maintain tradition, that whoever the top scorer is, Mr. Top Scorer, should be the one to give the speech. And then he throws in one of his little smirks. Like, oh, this guy's vindictive.
Yep. But and it's also revealed that night that the guy that Shin flipped over, I didn't write his name down, but Kurt. That's right, Kurt. He got A class instead of S class, and he's furious. His room is now an absolute mess.
S class are the top 10 students in the entire. It doesn't matter how good your grade was. Technically, S class is just the top 10 of students who scored.
Yep, the top 10.
And so he didn't get into it.
That can change depending on how poorly an S class student does and how well an A class student does. So that can change over time. And they kind of reveal that later on, that someone's like, hey, as long as I do this, I'll go ahead and remain in the S class the entire time. So they reveal that, I think, in episode. Actually, no, I think that's in this episode they reveal that.
Well, but that seems to be a standard Japanese school thing where classes are segregated based on how well they do, so they're within a similar grouping. I know it could depend from school to school, but the same thing happened when we reviewed Assassination Classroom, where they talked about the quality of the student and being shifted from one class to another depending on how well you did academically.
I don't really know. I honestly don't know enough about the Japanese school system to tell.
And it was also in My Hero Academia, where all the best heroes were in Class A, and in there's a kid in Class B who was making fun. Who anytime they did better than Class A, he'd try to rub it in, and then this girl with the giant hands would smack on the top of his head.
I think that's just his own personal vendetta because A comes before B. I think they're all equal.
I was under the impression that it was that Japanese schools in these particular anime seem to segregate students based on how well they're doing academically, so that they're
didn't get that
within
vibe.
their groups.
Yeah, I didn't get that vibe in My Hero Academia at all, especially later on when they actually have competitions between A and B are very evenly matched. So,
well, it was the point in My Hero Academia is that almost everyone in Class A made it to the end of the tournament. Some of the people in Class B, no one from C or below.
But they also point out that Class A, they only have Class A and B. They don't have any more than that. It's just A and B for the hero course. And then from then on, they've got the
then they have support course
and things like that.
Yeah.
But as far as I remember, there's only Class A and Class B.
Okay.
And they point out in that arc, the reason Class A did so much better than Class B is because Class A had real combat experience because of them being attacked by the supervillains. So
that's true.
When they started off, I feel very, very much that they didn't divide the classes in that way at all. It's just Class A became better for a little while because of that, but then Class B really stepped up their game to reach up to Class A.
Yeah, and schools that don't do that, and definitely Azumanga
Yeah, Azumanga doesn't do that, though the teacher does some dirty things to try to get students into her class so that she can go ahead and win the sports festival every single year.
Yes. So I don't know if it's a thing that happens at some schools and not others, but it just feels like it sometimes seems to be consistent in some anime, and then other anime it doesn't happen at all.
Like the example of of assassination classroom. To me, that just kind of felt like it was a specialized school. But anyway, back to where we were. So he's in S class.
He is in S class, and the other guy is lying on the floor, um, lamenting his fate, and like this guy's doing this to me. I've got to find a way to fix this.
But anyways, they then have class the next day for the first. Well, he then gets up. The new students walk into the assembly.
Yeah,
they all sit down.
He's told at the assembly that a lot of the students who are going to be there are actually the children of royalty, the children of the aristocracy. And so that's why, meritocracy had to rule here, because so many different levels of aristocracy had their children at this school.
And if they wanted a fair chance at that school, they had to get rid of that.
And he had no idea who was and who wasn't aristocracy, and so he kind of just casually says, "I had no idea that
oh yeah,
Maria and
I can totally see Cecily being royal or being noble just because of how she holds herself. But Maria, that's a total shocker." And Maria's just like, "Hey,
how dare you?
How dare you?"
And it's at that point when they announce the name of the person giving the speech that Maria and Cicely find out. I just butchered her name.
They say Sheik Woodford or Wolford.
Yeah, they say his last name, and that's when they realize, oh, he's the son. He's the grandson.
Well, and Og knows this, but yeah, and the two of them was just like, the two of them was just like, what, huh? Him? It's him? And Og's like, yep, that's right. He is the grandson of the wise man and the guru. And that just makes Kurt all the angrier. But they have their first day of class.
They do kind of the stereotypical murderous intent with the squashed eye, the squashed iris thing in Kurt's eyes.
But they then have their first day of class, and their first day of class is just kind of going over the schedule and introducing themselves and whatnot. And they go home. On the way home, Maria stops Sheen and says, "Hey, Cecily wants to talk to you about something." And Cecily says, "There's this guy who's bothering me, and it's really freaking me out. I need to talk to him, but I want you to be there to protect me in case something goes wrong, because I'm actually afraid of him." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, of course. Him, it's an opportunity to, be a man in front of the girl that he likes."
Yeah.
And it turns out, and then you hear Kurt's voice from the background saying, "Hey, Cecily, how dare you talk to another man? You get away from my fiance." And he comes up, and Cecily is afraid to say anything, and
then
she says, "Look, I'm here to help you. Okay, go say what you need to say." And she says, "I turned you down. I do not like your advances. This is harassment. I rejected your proposal. I want nothing to do with you. Leave me alone," type thing. And that upsets him even more, and he gets angry, and he starts throwing around his weight, and he starts threatening her family.
Because her father is a subordinate of his father at some company.
And he's like, and that freaks her out, and then Og walks up again and says, "Hey, what did I tell you about throwing out your weight? How dare you use your father's name to threaten someone here? You know better than that." And then Sheen starts escorting Cecily home at that point, because they're afraid that Kurt's going to do something, which makes Cecily super happy, or Cecily, it's weird. Like
she's ecstatic with the idea.
It's weird. In the wiki, they spell it as Cecily, not Ceciline. They did some weird spelling on Crunchyroll. I think I'll just keep saying Cecily because it's easier to say than Cecily.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Cecily is ecstatic about the fact that Sheen's going to be walking her home and protecting her. And he's like, "Actually,"
so is he.
And so is he. And he's like, "Actually, I have an idea. How about we go to my to my home today? There'll be plenty of room." And everyone's like, "Wait, we can visit the guru and the wise man, please." And so Maria runs up
Maria's like, "I need to go tell my parents. Wait right here for me." And then she performs like the Scooby-Doo quick bolt where
there's a paper left, and her hand grabs the paper.
Yeah. The paper gets left behind.
So they then end up at
At
Shin's
his
house.
yes, with his newly enchanted super clothes the um and the crew, which includes
Mm-hmm.
himself, the two girls, the prince, and his two bodyguards.
And Og is casual and familiar with them. He's polite, but everyone else is freaking out about being there except for Shin and Og.
Yeah.
They're just starstruck, and they introduce themselves. He's like, "Oh yeah, these are my friends, by the way." Lists all of them, and they're like, "Hey, how could you do that?" And they're just kind of shocked at how casually he's
Yeah,
introducing them.
they turned to shocked statues of stone.
Because of just how
As he
casual,
drops their names.
because of how casual he is with their heroes.
Yes.
Anyway, anyways, Shin then explains his plan about how Cecily's in danger because of this guy, so he would like to go ahead and perform what he did to his uniform, to hers as well. And he's talking to his grandmother about it, and she's just like, Shin, hold on, you
Yeah.
need to understand something. What you've done to your clothing, you already have. You are wearing around. No, you are walking around with what is essentially a state military secret. Okay,
Yes.
so that's how
It's national class
it's national.
armor.
You're wearing national treasure type thing
National
as your
treasure class armor.
yeah as your school uniform. You need to understand that if anybody learns about you making this stuff,
It could start a war.
it could start a war.
And Shin then just
Especially like
realizes,
it was specifically if the military
yeah,
learns that you can do this, it will start a war because there will be
yeah,
people who will push for it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at that moment that he just goes, "Oh, I never thought of that. Oh, this is really troublesome." And then it's at that moment that that the grandpa and grandma turn to each other and go, oh, "That's the first time Shin ever regretted something."
It's like they're watching him grow. They're just beaming with pride, like their eyes are stars and everything. They're
Which is
just so
hilarious
happy.
because you do really need the setup in episode 1 to really appreciate that, because
Mm-hmm.
she is trying to get him to feel shame for being an 8-year-old who's killed a boar. You're too young to be doing this. Or a
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old
Mm-hmm.
who's killed a demon. You're too young for this. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
he don't
He's like,
care.
whatever, I don't care.
This
I
at
do what
the
I
age
want.
of 15, he finally feels shame about
Uh,
something.
well, I think
That the
that's
consequences of his actions could be.
I think that's also very much just kind of the Japanese frame of mind. Like the Japanese frame of mind, the majority of them despise war. They want nothing to do with war. They want nothing to do with the spread of war. So him realizing that his actions could lead to war really, really sunk in, really hit
Yeah.
home.
So that is something else that he brought in with him to this isekai world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But anyway, she Melida then turns to Cecily and says, "Do you understand what he's asking you to do? And do you think you're worth what he's asking you to do?"
Do you think you're worthy to receive national treasure class armor?
Uh-huh. And Cecily just breaks down and she says, I'm not worthy. I'm not even worthy to be here right now. I need to go. I'm so sorry. Like, I have tricked Shin. I have used him for my own personal gains, and I feel awful about it. Please, please, just I need to go. And she gets up and she leaves, and
Yeah.
Melody's just like, wait. And she stops her and says, if you had accepted, I would have thrown you out on your ear.
If you had
Okay.
sat there and said nothing, I would have thrown you out on your
Yeah.
ear.
Uh-huh.
But you're honest.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
what's the harm in tricking a boy?
but Cecily's like, no, I'm not honest. I tricked him. I used him for my own purposes and and she's like, what's the harm in tricking a single boy? I mean, I don't even think Shin realizes what you've done yet. And you just told him.
You probably just worked him up, and he's really just happy to have you.
I mean, yeah, you honestly probably just worked him up, and now he's honestly just happy to be of service. And Shin's like, yeah, I am. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Shin is completely oblivious.
And so they go up like they go to a changing room, just Melida and Cicely, thank you. And changing clothes, and she's putting on a nightgown. While
so that her uniform could be enchanted.
So she has something else to wear while it's being enchanted. And as they're talking, Melida's just like, I got to do something to keep this girl around. she likes her. She likes her a whole lot.
Which kind of reminds me of the conniving of the mother in Aho Girl.
Oh my gosh! Only in Aho Girl, it's awful
because, but it's still there.
I told you about. Well,
yes,
this episode's going long enough. This episode's going long enough already. But anyway, they so they go back down. He then does his thing where he changes it. Everyone's like, "Holy crap, what's he doing?" And Melody's just like, "I know this freaking boy. I mean, seriously."
He's just sitting there erasing enchantments at will and putting in new ones, and people are just like,
"How is he doing this?" And he's just like, "Whatever." And
every once in a while, I've been like that when I do coding at work, where I think what I'm doing is pretty basic, but I've been doing it so much and learned so many different little things that trying to explain to an artist how I'm coding, it's just, they're like, stop trying, just get it done right.
Yeah. But anyway, he makes it.
So he's not even aware of how advanced he is.
And the prince is just like, can I have him do that to mine? Type thing. And then so he and his two body.
Yeah, the prince wanted his too, but the king's there.
That's right, the king's there.
The king is there, and the king did mention that, any more than I don't think that Og actually asked. No, I can't remember the exact.
Oh, it may have been the king wanting him for his son, protection for his son.
Yeah, the king mentioned that this is a secret that cannot leave this room. No one here is allowed to talk about this ever, and that's when Shin says, "Well, I was going to enchant your son's armor, but your son's uniform, but you're right. It's a pretty big secret. Now hold on a second."
He's like, "Now wait a minute." And so he ends up enchanting the bodyguard's armor, or not armor, uniform, and the prince's uniform, and everyone but Maria. And Maria's just like
Maria. And Maria's like, I'm just not comfortable walking around wearing state secrets.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable walking around wearing state secrets. I'm fine. That's good. Don't worry about me. Yeah. And then Shin reveals his spell to them. This is when we had the photo or the picture explanation that folds over. Yes, but Shin also reveals that he has to be somewhere before he
can only travel to a place he's been before.
And so he uses that ability, and he says, "Look, it's going to be super simple. Like, I can come get you straight from your house. I just have to go to your house first."
Yeah.
And so they start going to school, and Shin uses an ability that we didn't really cover, but magic sense, where he just kind of extends his magical presence to sense the magical essence of everybody around him. And he has a huge range. And so he's using that to sense for malice, to see if anybody has malicious intent nearby.
Now there's a quick little clip that I wanted to mention that we kind of glossed over, and that was it was just both at some point both Augie, both the wise man, the grandpa, and Shin are talking about how much of a force that the guru, the grandmother, is, and how she was able to detect that this girl was thinking these things and was trying to manipulate him, and this, that, and the other, and how it didn't even occur to him what was going on. And then she's such a force of power. I just feel like I'm no better than air in that room.
He's like,
like, "Oh, don't worry, Grandpa." And then it cuts, and then there's like a collage behind them of the other people who were in the room that were also no better than air, and included the king of the country compared to her. It's like, don't worry, Grandpa. Everyone's like that compared to Grandma.
Pretty much. The only difference was that Shin was comforting his grandpa and nobody else.
Yeah, his grandpa was the only one there.
Yep.
It was just everybody else was like, Yeah, no.
Okay.
Once she's in charge, she's in charge.
Okay. So we should probably go ahead and skip ahead a bit to um, Kurt gets grounded. His father's like, "You're an idiot. What are you doing? You used to never be like this." Um, uh, they talk about school, and
How people used to know Kurt from middle school, and now he's a bit more. And if something happened to him during middle school, then he's really changed.
and he started meeting with a teacher, and it was that teacher.
And this teacher seems to be a citizen of a neighboring empire who has a blindfold over both eyes, but somehow has the ability to magically sense non-living things. Because even Shin's sense ability only detects living things with intent and such. And so and then so we're introduced to the concept of this guy who may or may not be of good intent.
Yeah, yeah,
And then we find out. So Kurt's grounded, and that we're introduced to the teacher because
yeah.
Kurt's mother wants something to happen for Kurt,
Okay.
wants him to get better.
Before that, though, we should talk about the clubs because they go on a tour of the school. They start talking about what clubs there are at the school. There's a magic study club. There is a club that researches enchanting items. There's a club that researches using magic to improve your physical body.
There's a club that just studies the exploits of the guru and the wise man.
And I wrote this down. The prince's bodyguard wants to join that club where you use magic to make yourself look more muscular.
The body sculpting club.
The body sculpt, whatever it's called. And he's just like, the prince is like, oh yeah, go, join that club. It's great, please. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, my lord. My duty is to you, and I must stay by your side at all times. No, it's fine. This school, we don't have things like that here. You just go enjoy the club that you want to. He's like, oh, thank you, my lord. And Shin's just like, he just hates being escorted, so he's getting them to give him some space because the prince has a grin on his face after he tells the bodyguard to go join his that club. But everyone's like, "Hey Shin, what club do you want to join?" "Oh, I have an idea. Why don't you make your own club?" "Wait, what? No, why would I do that?" "No, that's great. We can call it the Ultimate Magic Study Club. That's awesome. I want to join it." "Hey, Cecily," says Maria, "do you want to go ahead? Would you join Shin's club if he had one?" And she's like, "Well, yes, I would. I mean, I have to stay by him at all times because he's protecting me right now. So I would definitely join it." And everyone wants him to make a club except Shin.
Yes, I actually wrote that down. That was item 6 on my list. Like, literally, everyone wants Shin to start a study group, but Shin.
But Shin. Like, everybody but Shin.
Including his teacher. His teacher even said, to start a study group, you need to have at least 5 members and a member of faculty. And when you start your club, advisor. I will be your faculty advisor.
Yeah, I'll be your faculty advisor, sure. How many of you want to join the club? Everyone raises their hand. Great! Shin, you're the president. Oh, come on! So they just kind of force him into it. Anyways, they are walking. They learned that Kurt has been grounded, and so they're just like, "Oh, well, I guess that if Kurt's been grounded, that means that you don't have to walk Cecily home."
One of the reasons he was grounded is that his father received notification from His Royal Highness that his son has been doing some
that his son has been throwing his name around. He's been
breaking the one rule. It's the one big rule.
Yep,
that's a law at school.
Yep, that's been a royal decree. And so his father punches him in the face after he does this kind of monologue about how we're chosen, we're better than commoners, we're above them, we shouldn't be the same as them, we shouldn't be treated the same, we should be treated specially. And his father punches him and says, "How dare you say something so crude? What happened to you?" type thing. We kind of covered that earlier. And he locks his son in his room. Anyway, hey, I actually got it. A little nap. Anyway, they learn that he's been grounded, and they're like, "Oh, I guess that you don't have to walk Cecily home anymore, do you?" And Cecily just goes, like they're eating lunch, and she drops her food on her plate when she realizes that she's no longer going to have that excuse to spend time with Shin.
And then Shin's all like, "Well, I don't have to walk to her to protect her, but I can still walk to school with her. I mean, it's still on the same. It's on the way
I mean, it's
for
in the
me.
same direction. And then Cecily's just like, oh, that's right. And she just beams. She gets
She
so happy that she
stands
stands
up in the
up.
middle of the cafeteria and
That's
beams.
right. It's the same direction. We can keep walking to school together because it's the same direction, you know? And everyone's just like, yeah, it is. And she realizes what she did. She sits down and she's blushing. And you just see Maria looking at her from the side with kind of that cat grin, just like,
Yeah.
you know, just like totally know that her friend's completely in love with this guy and she's going to milk it. Okay. Um, yeah, but anyways, as they're walking to class after that, Kurt, or not Kurt, well, yes, Kurt attacks, but Shin senses his malice.
Yeah, Shin
Um,
senses his malice, and
mhm,
it's murderous intent. And Kurt has become the second. He had such dark intent in him,
mhm,
and we think at this point we suspect, but we're not fully
mhm.
sure what his teacher did to him
His
beyond.
te-
But we know that his teacher's been putting the ideas in his head.
well, the teacher came and visited him because the mother summoned him or
Uh,
asked him to come visit,
like
and
I was saying, yeah.
because she doesn't know what to do, what she doesn't know what happened to her dear son. So let's go ahead and get him in touch with the person that
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 he that he responds best to.
that he respond. Well, in her mind, she responds best to, but everyone else is just like, Kurt started changing for the worse when he started meeting with this guy.
And the mother didn't know.
The mother didn't know that. But he goes up and he visits him and he says, yes, you're chosen. You're special. You're wonderful. And this guy's in your way, isn't he? He's like, yes, yes, he's in my way. He's making it to where I can't do what I want to do with my woman. He's making it to where I can't be what I'm meant to be, where I can't exceed and just be the best that there is. And he's like, here, how about here, and then how about you take care of him and then cast some kind of a spell on him.
Yeah.
And then he leaves. And and anyways, Kurt then shows up the next day at school, even though he's grounded. And he throws a massive fireball at them, just this wave of fire. And there's this magical battle between him and Shin.
Yeah.
Shin pulls up his shield and he tells both Cecily and Og to put magic into their uniform. Magic, the flow of magic is what activates the enchantments.
Yes, the enchantment only works where it covers, and you have to put magic into it to make it work. You are vulnerable to a sneak attack, and you are vulnerable where skin is exposed, legs,
Yep.
arms, head.
Yep. And because of the intensity of the attack and how he was distracted, Shin actually gets hurt by this fireball. Like you see burns on his hands and his face. And everyone's worried about him. And he's like, no, it's fine. Like the regeneration is already starting to kick in. You see the burns beginning to heal in front of their eyes. Yeah. He's like, everyone get out of here. And Og tells his retainers to go get guards to go tell the teachers that a demonoid is attacking the school. And Og's like, look, let us help. Let us fight with you. And he's like, no. Look, what are you saying? I'm saying you'll get in the way. You know, Shin's just like, no.
Are you just saying we're in the way?
Yeah.
Yes. You're in the way.
Yeah. Yes, you're in the way. And Cecily does not want Shin to go fight this guy because they know how dangerous demonoids are.
Mm-hmm.
And they
because anyone with common sense knows and remembers the history that one demonoid has wiped out platoons of people
and destroyed cities and things like that, and it took 2 legendary people to stop one of them. Yeah. Where Shin's going up against it by himself, and Cecily immediately starts going after him, trying to stop him. Maria grabs her, and he's like, "Guys, get her out of here!" And yeah, you're in my way, type thing. And so Og looks at him and does what he's told pretty much, and goes, and they go leave, and they have this magic fight between them, and Shin realizes that it's weird that Kurt is talking because demonoids are
mindless.
They're mindless rage creatures.
So maybe the conversion hadn't been complete.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something in him left.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, and before Og leaves, Shin's like, "That was an attack on our lives," and he's like, "Yep."
That was attempted murder.
That was attempted murder type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, they get into the fight, and there's this pretty cool fight between the two of them, magical powers blasts going back and forth. And Kurt begins to gathering magical energy to the point where he's going to explode because he just wants to kill Sheen that badly.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything that Sheen does is just causing pain to Kurt. Every attack he did up to that point was hurting him, which was another hint that he hadn't completely become a demonoid yet.
Yes.
Because demonoids also can't feel pain, apparently.
Which makes them which is why they're so hard to stop.
Yeah.
In part.
Yeah. They just keep going. Anyways, after he then says, "I'm sorry, Kurt. I hope you can forgive me for this." And he pulls out his vibro sword outside of his pocket dimension and decapitates Kurt.
Yep.
Kills him. And
then he spends his time thinking how he's never killed a human before. And that's when some of his friends realize that the danger's over, and then they approach him.
And because they were watching.
Yes.
Yeah. We should say before this, though, during lunch, this is something you wrote down, and we kind of skipped over it. He's telling them about the story about how he killed a red demonoid bear.
Well, he's saying that he's telling them about how you can use sense magic to sense ill intent. And so, have you ever gone demon hunting? No, we just finished middle school. Well, demons have this poisonous dark aura, and people can have that same aura if they have very bad intentions. And so they're like, "When did you go hunting a demon?" When I was 10 years old, I took on a demon bear and took its head off. And then everybody just sort of stares at him and goes, "Oh, I've done it again." What part of that story are you surprised about? And then unanimously, all of it.
Because a demon bear is an extremely powerful demon, demonoid. Anyways, so all the guards come up and they're like, "Wait a minute, what happened?" Well, no.
And so there's an after credit scene.
Yeah. Cecily, real fast, Cecily sees Shin, sees that he's kind of shaken up by the fact that he killed someone. And she kind of, it feels like Cecily's blaming herself for putting Shin in this situation where he had to kill somebody.
Yeah.
She sees there's a big look of guilt on her face. But anyways, there's an after credit scene on this episode that I actually skipped the first time I watched it because I didn't realize there was an after credit scene.
Me too.
It's not a very long one, but yeah, there's a great after credit scene that you wrote about.
So after the credits roll, it cuts back to them, and they're kind of dealing with the aftermath of the death of Kurt. And
group of guards come up.
Sorry, I just remembered that. What's his name? That exclamation point renamed Kirito Kurt for his deconstruction of the SAO abridged. But no. No. So what happened was these guards come up saying, "We heard that there was a demonoid. Where is it? Where is it?" And they point to a body on the floor. It's like, it's already dead? Who took care of it? So these are seasoned guards who knew what was, who'd been around. I don't know if they were around way back then, but I'm sure they've heard the stories. Everyone's heard the story. Everyone has heard the stories.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of why the help mobs come after these two. But the fact that one person took out a demonoid by himself, and they turn to the prince and go, "Sire, was it you?" And he says, "No, I will tell you who did this." And then makes this huge fanfare about it being Shin, who
is the grandson of the guru and the wise man,
who slayed this single-handedly. And suddenly the guards start chanting his name, "Shin, Shin, Shin,
our new hero!"
And at that moment, Shin looks over to the prince and Og, and Og suddenly has this vindictive smile on his face.
Just this kind of. Well, that's what leads me to believe that the prince has plans.
Yes.
That the prince knows what he's doing. That, like I said before, the king promised not to use him. The prince made no such promise.
Yeah.
And that's what the prince is doing.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's where the 3 episodes end. I just want to go ahead and point out that I kind of said it before, but I love this show's ability to make it so lighthearted, and then it's like flipping a switch, and suddenly it's serious and somber, and then they flip another switch and it's lighthearted again.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't feel like it's ruining the pacing. It doesn't feel jarring to me. It's just kind of interesting to me how they're able to just switch gears so easily.
It's kind of like a giant jawbreaker. It's layers of you have your layer of humor, then a layer, and it goes deeper and deeper as you go through the story.
Yeah, it's great. But we've already talked about wanting to watch more, so I think that's our conclusion for this show.
Yeah, we'll be watching more of this.
Yep. Like I said, once we're done recording this, I'm going to go ahead and watch the latest episode.
Okay.
So that's it for Wise Man's Grandchild. What are we watching next week?
So next week, I've been seeing a whole bunch of memes featuring characters from this particular anime coming up in my Facebook feed, and I kind of wanted to see what it was all about. And so next week we'll be watching Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba.
Okay.
It's the Taisho period in Japan. Tanjiro, a kind-hearted boy who sells charcoal for a living, finds his family slaughtered by a demon. To make matters worse, his younger sister, Nezuko, the sole survivor, has been transformed into a demon herself. Though devastated by this grim reality, Tanjiro resolves to become a demon slayer so that he can turn his sister back into a human and kill the demon that massacred his family. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of this, but the little sister ends up having what looks like a spell scroll in her mouth almost all the time.
I just barely found demonslayer-anime.com. And I have seen her before.
Yes.
I didn't. Okay.
So
it looks like it's from what I just excuse me, from what I gather, because when I first looked it up, it looks like it was made from an older anime. Let me go ahead and double check when it was first published. No, okay, sorry. It's still fairly recent. It's 2016. Yeah. The cover just has a very old school style to it. It looks kind of like an older anime. And I was wondering if it was kind of the recent trend of older animes where the imagination was just so big they couldn't quite do it. Or older manga, I should say, where the anime, the imagination for it was just so big that they couldn't really do justice until recently. Kind of like what they did with Ushio and Tora and Parasite. Things like that.
Okay.
So,
or whether it's part of the other trend of just being an homage to the older styles of anime, like Megalobox was.
Could be. Anyways, I am looking forward to watching that. That looks interesting.
Okay. So that's what So look forward to that next week.
Awesome.
So that brings us to our recommendation of the week, and this week it's your turn.
Yep. And this week I'm going to recommend. It's only 2 episodes so far. I hope they make more. But there is a YouTube channel by the name of Grimjack, and they made something that a friend of ours, Joe, actually introduced me to this, Goblin Slayer Abridged.
Yes.
And, oh my gosh, it's funny. Oh my gosh. Here, drink this. Drink this. You'll feel better. Okay. Ow, that's disgusting. What was that? Good, you're not a goblin piss. What? Why would you make me drink that? It means you're not a goblin. Fact one about goblins. They drink their own piss.
Oh, God.
Note to self, elves might be goblins. Investigate further. It's so good.
No.
It's so good. Like, one of my favorite things about Goblin Slayer is the relationship between Goblin Slayer and Guild Girl. I adore Guild Girl. She's a receptionist. And she is so, like, she's kind of fallen for Goblin Slayer because while most people get into adventuring because they want to make big names for themselves, so they're filled with boisterous people, and she's just, she deals with that all the time. Goblin Slayer is very somber. He keeps to himself. He gets the job done, and he saved thousands of lives with his work of just killing goblins rather than just trying to make a name for himself.
Nice.
And she's fallen for him, because of that. But anyways, she in Goblin Slayer Abridged, rather than being this polite receptionist, she is somebody who's just so done with her job. It's great. Anyways, I recommend it. It's only got 2 episodes so far. I really hope they make more. I think they've got a Patreon. that we can go ahead and give a link to if you want to go ahead and see more information about them. Obviously, the more people who go ahead and help them out with Patreon, the more easily it will be for them to go ahead and make more episodes. Anyways, that's it for recommendation of the week. Now it's creator shout out time, and it's your turn.
All right, this week I'm going to give a shout out to a YouTube channel that I enjoy called Cinema Wins.
That channel's awesome.
So, we're going to put the link on our site and go ahead and just check them out. They spend their time dissecting movies and just having positive things to say about it.
That's kind of what a lot of what our inspiration behind this show was Cinema Wins.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much negativity out there, and it's so easy to be negative about things. We decided to go ahead and create the show that was just more positive, focusing on the things that we really, really enjoy in anime. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So give them a look. They have some pretty amazing stuff. I think they did what 2 episodes for Avengers Endgame. No, for Avengers Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Endgames wouldn't be out yet, but no, it's the positivity. Even on some movies that seem just classically bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice to have a positive spin on things.
Yeah, mm-hmm. It really is, and you need positivity in like especially in these times. Okay, so that's it for creator shout out. I guess that's it for this episode. Unless there was something else you wanted to say?
That was it.
Well, thanks so much for listening in this week. I'm gonna have to get another drink. My throat's starting to get scratchy from talking so much. If you listen on YouTube, please feel free to like this episode and subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do and want to support us, please share our channel with your friends. Where can they find us on social media?
Our site, whitakerweekly.com, currently has links to our Facebook page, Twitter account, and YouTube channel. We encourage all our listeners to follow us on the social media platform of their preference. And if there's one we're not on yet, please reach out to us on one of the ones we've mentioned, and we'll broaden our scope to include you.
All right, well, that's it for another week. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to Ben Coombs for providing the artwork for us.
Another shout out to Brazmataz for writing Dreikolk, which we use for our opening and closing song.
Yep. All right, I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whitaker Weekly. You guys have a great week.